just tell us what you want to do. Okay. You just want to set it up here? All right. Try to speak into it a little bit.
I want to start off saying Luke 3:5. Every valley will be filled, and every mountain and hill will be leveled. Their crooked ways will be made straight, and their rough roads will be made smooth. Most everyone here knows me, but if you don't, my name is Holly Lynch Morgan. My mess I had in my past has now become my message, and how Jesus met me in my mess. I feel like sometimes people think they have to get straight before they come to God. But the great thing is Jesus will meet you right where you are. I had a great childhood, a great family. My mama took me and my brother and whoever else to church pretty much every time the doors were open. And so did my grandparents. My mama and daddy taught us to work hard and to have goals, morals, and to respect others and ourselves. I remember my mama always praying and singing, and I loved to hear my daddy talk about Jesus. My mama, Paul, would read the Bible every morning and pray before they started their day. You might not think that your kids are listening, but trust me, they are. They're soaking everything up like a little sponge, the good and the bad. Proverbs 22:6 says, train a child up in the way they should go, and even when they're old, they will not turn away. When we were taught about Jesus, we never forget it, no matter how hard we fall. So now I'm grown. I get married to a great guy. We start planning our life and our family. A few months after getting married, we became pregnant. We were so excited. Sorry, y'all. At 24 weeks pregnant, something wasn't right. So I was admitted into the hospital and started dilating and never felt a contraction, never felt the pain. I was told I had incompetent cervix. So the doctor did an emergency cerclage. He was supposed to do 4 little stitches, and instead he did 18, and he broke my water. And didn't tell us until later. The doctor was real heartless. He had bad bedside manners. All the doctor told my mom was to let's jerk this baby out and let her start over. So thank God that I have a great mama. She got me sent to Vanderbilt, and a few days later, I gave birth to my daughter. Her name was Kylie Ann Balthrop. She weighed 1 pound and 4 ounces and only 11.5 inches long. She was a beautiful baby, and the doctors did all they could do. But before I knew what was going on, I saw this beautiful angel in the corner of my delivery room holding my baby. But my mama did too, and I didn't know it for years later. And we were talking one day, and she said, I saw that angel. Kylie Ann was born January 28th, 1999 at 11:09, and passed away the same day. It was really heartbreaking. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, it was nothing but heartbreak, and my mental health had become so bad at this point. I was trying to figure out what I did wrong, what I could have done different. But thank God I have a great mama and grandparents who prayed for me, who encouraged me, and who wouldn't give up on me. I felt like I was going crazy. I cried all the time. I was in a deep depression, but thank God He never left my side. I got closer to God. I got involved in church more and become a Sunday school teacher. And so did my husband. Months later, we started trying again to have a baby. And months after month, nothing happened. So I started to fall in, I was still in my depression, but I started falling deeper into a depression. But thank God I had that praying mama, that praying my mom. I would stay up crying, but I had the best support team I could have ever asked for, and I still do today. My husband was worried that I was going to kill myself because I was so depressed. But prayers work. We started going to a fertility clinic at Vanderbilt, and a year later, still nothing. I prayed, I begged God, asking Him why. I didn't understand. But when I gave it all to God, and I started relaxing, trusting and believing God was going to make it all happen, I even had a verse that I would stand on and meditate on, and it was Psalms 127:3. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is your reward. And when I least expected it, I was pregnant with my beautiful baby girl, Taylor. Jesus had blessed me with the most amazing baby. She changed my life so much. But what was so great is God had showed my mom, this is how God works. He does give you dreams. He shows you in dreams. But He gave her a dream that I was pregnant, and she was holding a little baby girl in a little yellow outfit. So everything she bought Taylor for the first little bit was yellow. I love how God talks to us, though. So when Sissy was born, she had to stay in the NICU for 12 days. And I was so scared, worried. I prayed over her so much, but God gave me peace and comfort. Then she got to come home, and she was beautiful. She still is today. Then 3 years later came my beautiful baby Ethan. He was, from the moment I found out I was pregnant, that kid had an attitude. And still do. But God bless me with awesome kids. My life had become even sweeter. Now I have two amazing gifts from God. When Ethan was a month old, I got to noticing he wasn't looking right. He was really sick. So I took him to the doctor, and they admitted him into the hospital. Now this is how Satan, he just throws stuff at you, but with God, everything, He's right there, and He's helping you. He's helping you. So I took Ethan to the doctor. They admitted him into the hospital. He had turned jaundice and had RSV really bad. He was a sick little guy. But God had His hands on him. And honestly, I wasn't worried when he was in there because I knew who had him. And then another 3 years later, I get another blessing. And it's my little Caden. Caden was so little. He was born let me back up a little bit. So I started having issues with Caden and had to be put on bed rest for 3 months. I couldn't go nowhere other than to the doctor. But there was a lot of praying going on. My mom and my mom would call me every day, and they would pray. And my mama kind of spoilt me. She would cook for me all the time and send it to us. But when Caden was born at 7 months, he weighed 4 pounds and 12 ounces. And today you can't tell he ever was that little. He stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I was scared, but I knew who was in control and who had their hands on him. God blessed me with an amazing family. So now we're going to fast forward a few years. And my husband and I, we got out of church. This was our downfall. We started partying. I got hooked on pills. And me and my husband started fighting all the time. We let people in our lives that were no good. So watch out who you hang around, because who you hang around is who you become. We ended up getting a divorce. I went from a great life to a chaotic life. In and out of abusive relationships, getting further and further away from God. Then when pills wasn't working, I started smoking weed and then turned to a little meth here and there. I could use and put it down. But when I couldn't live without it, but then I got to a point that I couldn't live without it. I loved how it made me feel. I had energy. I lost a whole lot of weight. My husband at the time was also on it. We would fight so bad. And to be honest, I don't know how we didn't kill each other. But God had his hands on us, because there again, thank God for praying mamas. We become mentally, physically, and emotionally abusive to each other. He would hit me like I was a full-grown man. One night he held me down 3 different times until I stopped breathing or I stopped struggling. And I'd have to gasp for, try to gasp for air. And I would black out. I should have walked away after I got away from him that night. But I didn't. And when he would start hitting me, I'd fight back. Now, this is how crazy meth can do you, because I have never been a mean person. But I ended up stabbing him 12 different times, not all at once, but through the last, 6 months of our relationship. And there's way more fights, but y'all get the point, I don't have to go through it. But thank God for a praying mama and grandparents. My mama would drive by my house, seeing if she could just see life. She thought she was going to find me dead. I had become a heavy IV user, shooting up in my heart vein. One day I went to my brother's house, and she knew I was shooting up because my chest was all bruised up. When I left, she started crying and praying, and she fell to her knees and told God, whatever it takes, and she totally surrendered me to God. She also said I looked like death, but see, I couldn't see that, but everybody else could. So when you think that you're hurting nobody, because my biggest thing is who am I hurting? But you're really hurting everybody that loves you. And 2 weeks later, I got arrested in Todd County. Not even maybe a mile from my house. It was on August the 2nd, and Ethan's 15th birthday was the next day. And I was so mad because I was missing his birthday. We had plans the next day to go swimming at my aunt's house. But really, it was a prayer answered. Because if I would have made it home, the law enforcement was there waiting, and there was 8 grams of dope sitting on the counter. I was left in jail all weekend, and let me tell you, I was mad at my mama because she left me there. When I went to court on Monday, my papa was sitting on the front pew or row or whatever it's called in there, and I was so embarrassed. Oh my gosh. Anybody else could have been sitting there, but when I saw him, I was so embarrassed. Because he had to see me that way. But thank God I was able to get out of jail that day. That was August the 6th, 2018. And you thought I would have, changed stuff around and I would have stopped doing what I was doing. But I'm hard-headed, and I did good for about a week, and then I started running with some old friends again. I started using again. The judge had put me on probation, but still, nope, it didn't. I didn't change. I went to my probation officer on November the 13th, 2018, and I was so messed up. I'd even walked through a door frame, like I was hit the door frame. My PO had to sit me down, and he handcuffed me and said, "Little girl, I'm about to save your life." But at the time, I thought he was just being mean and taking me away from my kids. But really, he wasn't. He really was trying to save my life. I went to jail in Logan County and stayed for 28 days. The good thing is it didn't take me a long time staying in jail. It only took me about 30-something days in all not to ever want to go back. But it seemed like forever. I prayed a lot. I got in my Bible, went to the Bible studies. Every time there was something to do with Jesus or with church, or I would go. I never understood why they wasn't taking me to Todd County Jail. But again, thank God for mamas. Because my mom had talked to the probation officer and said, I don't want her in Todd County because she had friends there. So after 28 days, I went back to court, and we asked the judge for rehab, and he was happy we asked for that. So he released me to my mom, and I had long enough to literally get home, pack a few things, and she took me to Bowling Green, but that was just a short stay. I actually begged her to get me out of that. It was a sober living, and we could do whatever we wanted, basically. But I begged her to put me in Teen Challenge, and everybody said, "What? That's boot camp." I said, "Well, I guess I need boot camp." So on January the 2nd, my daughter and my mom took me to Louisville, Kentucky, to Adult and Teen Challenge. Still scared, nervous, worried, because I was so far from my kids, my family, but really it was the best place I could be. I was in an amazing place to be with I was around great people, but still scared because I was far away from home and family. The first month at Teen Challenge, my mama was in a bad car accident, and my pa found out he had bladder cancer. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't. Number one, I would have been no help because I was sick. And number two, I would have went back to jail because I was court ordered to be there. Teen Challenge truly is an amazing place to be. If you need help with addiction, I was there for a year. I got my life back. I learned that you need to have a relationship with Jesus and how to get it. Everything was centered around God. We were in classes and worked on ourselves. Every month we got a new contract with character qualities, self-worth, and how to be parents after addiction, getting down to the root cause of our issues. Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future." And that's what Teen Challenge gave me back, a hope and a future. God knew what he was doing when he put me in when he put Teen Challenge in Dave Wilkerson's heart in 1960. And what a great program that it would be years later. And I don't know how my mom ever did what she did that year, because dealing with what happened with my grandparents, and then bringing my kids every time a visit, or even home visits, coming to get me, because it was 4 hours, 3 hours, something. And plus, she took care of a business and whatever else life threw at her. But God gave her strength, and it was only God that helped her do all she did. So I graduated on January the 2nd, 2020, and came back home, but I didn't go back to my home. I stayed with my mom and dad. And coming home was scary, after being in a protective bubble. Because we had no phones there. You only could watch Christian stuff on TV or, well, that was it. We couldn't watch news. We couldn't, you didn't, it was all centered around God. They pretty much had to reprogram our minds because what addiction had done to us for so long. And when you hear this saying, it takes a village to raise kids, that is really true. Because while I was in addiction and in rehab, my brother Matthew and Crystal helped my mama and daddy take care of my kids. See, addiction doesn't just affect the person in addiction, it affects the whole family, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And I thank my brother and sister-in-law for stepping up when I checked out. I did good for a year. I did good for a few years, stayed in church, was a mama again, worked, went back home, and then, sorry babe, I met my husband. I met John and fell in love. And at the time, I didn't know he was on meth. But later found out he was, and I relapsed with, it's not his fault though. But it wasn't his fault. And I don't ever blame him. Because I should have been strong enough to say, you know what? Either you got to go or you got to get rid of it. So we got together October 20th, 2021. And in January 2022, I don't know the exact day that I relapsed. The whole time that we were on it, which was just about a year together, our life was crazy and hard. But something I did forget to say, we got out of church again and away from God. And that's why I relapsed. It wasn't him, it was me. I broke my kids and my family's heart again. I broke promises again, and I let myself and my kids and my family down. December the 14th, 2022, I put myself in a 28-day program in Hopkinsville called Genesis. I had to just get recentered and refocused, and it helped a lot. While I was there, I worked on myself again and spent time with God and got my relationship back with Jesus. 2 weeks before I graduate Genesis, John got arrested. And then when I got home, I had to figure out what I needed to do while John was in jail. I asked him to go to rehab and to get better, or we couldn't stay together. So John went to rehab. When he graduated, we got in church and started working on our relationship and had to work. And I had to work on my relationship with my kids and my mama and my family again. My daughter was still really upset at me and didn't trust me. And it took a while. But now we have a great relationship, and the same with my boys. In May 17th, 2023, we lost my daddy. And that was the hardest thing I ever had to face, sober and clean. And people was worried I would relapse. But instead I leaned on Jesus. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And it was God's strength that helped me and still helps me every day. But every day, I have to work on myself and keep in a relationship with Jesus. And I talk to him like he's my best friend. October the 25th, 2025, John and I got married. We're still in church. We're still working on our recovery because it's very important. I'm very involved with my kids, my family, and I'm going to keep adding to my story in a good way. I thank God for my recovery. I thank God for pulling me out of the darkness and giving me another chance. I thank God for my praying mama and grandparents who never stopped believing in me. I thank God for every counselor, friend, and person who poured into me while I was in Teen Challenge. That God used them to save my life. I know recovery wasn't easy, but my God is faithful. I thank God for restoration. I thank God for my husband that we are learning, growing, and working together. It's not perfect, it's progress, and that's God's grace. And I thank God for letting me tell my story. Matthew 19:26, with God all things are possible. So when you have a loved one that's in addiction, never give up on them. You love them, so you'll fight for them. Remember, getting a relationship with Jesus is the most important thing you could ever do. So don't just be a Sunday morning warrior. Choose Jesus every day. Talk to Jesus before you ever pick up your phone in the mornings. And remember, when you're praying, God is working even when you don't see that he's working. John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, but I come that you may have life and have it abundantly. Thank y'all for letting me tell my story.